Hey everybody, here's a quote from Josh Duggar. Marriage is essential to the American family, and every single child deserves a mother and a father. Interesting. There is no evidence that kids of same-sex marriage negatively affects a child's well-being, according to the American Psychology Association, and yet separation from a parent through imprisonment has been found to be more detrimental to a child's well-being than divorce or the death of a parent. That's according to the National Institute of Health. The hypocrisy, of course, will always be present. But hey, if you don't think that there's a problem with this, then give us a call because the show is starting right now. Hello, everybody. I am Objectively Dan, and welcome to Truth Wanted, the live call-in show that happens every single week, Fridays at 7 p.m. Central Time, where we talk to people about what they believe and why. And if you like to call us, you can do that. We have open lines right now. It is 512-991-9242 to call, or you can call through your computer at tiny.cc/calltw. Truth Wanted, of course, is a product of the Atheist Community of Austin, a 501c3 nonprofit organization dedicated to the promotion of atheism, critical thinking, secular humanism, and the separation of religion and government. We'd also like to welcome our new viewers today who are watching from Twitter and Twitch. And of course, give all of our love to the regulars on YouTube. So thank you, folks. This is our third time doing Twitch and Twitter stuff. So you guys let me know what you think about that. And of course, every single week, I'm always joined by a special guest. This week is no different. It is Sydney Davis Jr. Sydney Davis Jr. Welcome to the show.
Greetings. Thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it.
Yes. Sydney Davis Jr. Who are you?
Oh, man. I am a few different things. I am the host of a podcast called Growing Up Fundie that you can find on all podcast platforms and YouTube. I've been doing stand-up for 16 years. You know, I realized the other day I've been doing stand-up longer than I was alive not doing stand-up, which is weird.
Yeah. That is weird. But
and I have too many birds.
Yes, you have birds. So this is, I think, our first like bird featured heavy show.
Yes.
We've had cats and dogs on in the past, but hopefully we'll get some bird action in here in a second. We'd love to see it. Well, great. Well, Sydney, we're going to talk to you a little bit more about who you are and what you do. But before we do that, we have to talk about our segment. We want the truth, okay? Because every single week, we're always asking a question for you folks at home to comment, and we'll pick the top 3 responses. So last week, we asked the question, the secret to any good conspiracy is blank. And you were supposed to fill in the answer on that one. Okay. So number 3, our pick was Oni Snyder, who said the secret to any good conspiracy is countering non-conspiratorial explanations with that's what they want you to think, which is true. I mean, it's a tried and tested method. What's the phrase? How do you speak English? There's a thing that people say a lot, and that's what they say. That's the thing, right, Sydney?
Tried and true.
Tried and true. Thank you. Okay. Glad to know I wasn't having a stroke.
Nope.
And I'm okay. So let's keep going on. That's a great answer. But our number 2 answer is also good. It's from Josh Boyd, who says the secret to any good conspiracy is linking them together with about 23 tabs open on your browser. Oh my goodness. Sydney, did you see last week's show?
I didn't.
Because last week we had a very extensive conversation with a fellow from the Sovereign Citizen Movement. And my goodness, I had to open a lot of tabs. The crew was worried that my computer was just going to shut down with how many tabs I had to open. So, hey, if you're a sovereign citizen and you want to call into the show, you know, go ahead, but don't make me open that many tabs again, please. Oh my goodness. It was a lot. But yeah, folks, check out that episode after you watch this one, of course, because that was a wild ride. Our number 1 comment from this week is from Todd Sullivan, who says the secret to any good conspiracy is making it about the Jews somehow. And it's true. Every conspiracy always goes back to Jewish people. I don't know what it is, but it just happens that way. Right? So, yeah, it's a thing. It's just a thing. I don't know why. Anyway, those are our top 3 answers to our question from last week. And of course, you have a new prompt this week. This week's prompt is, what is something that sounds true, but isn't? So comment below and we will pick our favorite 3 answers to read off for next week. But before we move on here, Sydney, what is something that sounds true but isn't?
So maybe this is specific to me, but I don't think so. I think a lot of people lived this experience.
Okay.
In the 90s, I was told that if I ate the sesame seeds off the top of my burger and then I drank water, it would grow a plant in my body.
Yo, you remember that episode of Rugrats?
Yes.
You know what I'm talking about?
And
I think
that's what made me think it was real, because I had been told that.
That freaked me out too.
Yes.
Because I think it was like a watermelon on that
Yeah.
show.
Yep. That was the other one, is watermelon seeds.
Okay,
I was
the
told if I ate
watermelon
those.
seed, and it grew in that kid, and
Yep.
that freaked me out. And the other thing was swallowing gum was my answer.
That's,
so
I literally
ours are very similar.
I have that on my list right now. Swallowing gum was number 2.
Swallowing gum, I thought it was going to be in your stomach for like 7 years.
Yes.
Is what they told me, and I guess they just didn't want me to eat the gum. I don't know why.
Yep.
It's not.
That is literally number 2, right behind sesame seeds. And then I believed it even more because very shortly after that, McDonald's stopped putting sesame seeds on all their burgers. I think they still do it on the Big Mac, but like they didn't do it to every burger. And so I thought it was because so many people had died because they were growing
died from sesame plants growing.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Have you seen Alien? Like I just pictured that, but like a plant.
Oh my god. Yeah, no, that's a very funny connection that I could see like warping your brain at a very young age. That is
Totally.
Yeah, but no, that listen, that Rugrats episode fucked me up. As soon as you said that, I was like, that's real.
Yep.
That's real.
Yep.
Anyway, so comment below, what is something that sounds true but isn't? We would love to hear it. And now it's time for me to talk with our guest, Sydney Davis Jr.
Woo.
Jr. You are the host of Growing Up Fundie, a very cool podcast, which I got to be on. So y'all should check out that episode if you want a good segue into that. So I picked that quote at I didn't pick it actually. Our associate producer, Katie, picked it. Thank you, Katie. But Katie picked that quote because, and I told her that she should pick something from the Duggar family because you grew up around the Duggar family in Arkansas, right?
Yeah. Yes, that is literally my claim to fame. Like no matter how long I do stand up, no matter how many guest appearances I make, my headstone at the end of my life is going to say this girl knew the Duggars, and that's it. That's all it's going to say.
I felt bad because it was like I've definitely asked you and talked to you about it before, and it's like I am using this bit from you again.
Go for
it. You knew the Duggars, so
Go
or at least we're around.
Yeah. In fact, I knew that I know so much about the Duggars from growing up with them that I actually got kicked off of a subreddit because they said that I was all the facts and evidence. I was doing like I think I was doing like an AMA or something.
Yeah.
But they said that everything I was saying was Google verifiable. So they thought I was lying. So they kicked me off. And I was like, wait, so everything I'm saying is so true. You can prove it on the internet and you're kicking me off because that makes me a liar.
Weird. That's the Fundie Snark subreddit, right?
It is.
Oh, I didn't know if you wanted me to say the name, but we should talk about, we have not talked about Fundie Snark on this show.
Now, Fundie Snark Uncensored loves me.
Oh, okay.
They love
Fundie
me.
Snark Uncensored. See, there's subreddit drama there.
There is.
That's the whole thing. But Sydney, I will not pigeonhole you to this knowledge of you should probably explain the context because you're not a fundamentalist Christian person anymore. But you kind of grew up. You weren't homeschooled though.
No,
you didn't grow up in the homeschool stuff. Yeah.
No, I call it Fundie adjacent because I wasn't Fundie and I wasn't like homeschooled, but I went to church with people who were very fundamentalists, and the Duggars went to my church before they started their own home church. Basically like the chapter of their life before Shiny Happy People kind of starts.
Yeah.
There were only about, I think, 10 kids in the family at that point. But yeah, we went to the same church. We had the same piano teacher. I remember they were much better than me at piano. It was very embarrassing. Very talented individuals. Yeah. But people.
I should have given context to it in case that didn't give it away. But yes, the Duggar family, in case you guys aren't aware, are the stars of several reality shows. One of them being 19 Kids and Counting. Yeah. A couple other ones with numbers in them. I can't keep track of them all. There's been a few on TLC and other shows. If you watch the documentary series Shiny Happy People, which I watched recently, they do talk about that ideology a little bit more. And it's very like when I look at that, Sydney, and you tell me, because I guess you grew up around this, but when I look at that, I was like, okay, that's weird. Even as a Christian, I would have said that was weird. Right. I feel like a lot of people say that.
And so I remember when I was a kid, like there was definitely the vibe that some people were taking Christianity way far.
Mm,
And like that's
mm.
even to people who want to be like the most devout. There were some people that we were like, interesting. They do things a little bit different than the rest of us. They're a little more in touch with the, the Old Testament, I suppose. But yeah, definitely. Even in your very Christian circles, there's still going to be people who out Christian you, and you're
Yeah.
never sure if it's a good thing or a bad thing. Like, should I be offended or should I keep my distance? I don't know.
Yeah. So eventually you kind of grew out of fundamentalism and became a comedian, which I feel like is a story that is I don't want to say common, but it's not the first time I've heard that. You know,
Well,
I don't know what the through line is there.
well,
Sydney.
the interesting part is, so yeah, I was raised Baptist and I stayed religious. Probably I started stand up when I was in 11th grade. And I stayed religious until I was like 24 or 25. So there was a long time there where I was doing comedy and going to church on Sundays. Which now in reflection, I'm like, what? Like, well, that doesn't make any sense. But yeah, I think it's because religious trauma makes you funny. I
Mm,
think that's what it is. I think
that's
when
what it is.
I think purity culture just makes you laugh.
I think, because you do kind of grow up in the absurd, right? And like you can kind
Yeah.
of point that out
Yeah.
being on the inside of that. I could see
Yeah.
that through line.
I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, and it's weird because I was able to keep those two compartments of my life actually quite separate, but in hindsight, I don't really know how I did that. I
Mm.
just did at the time. It just made
I
sense.
kind of I think about my own life in a similar way. I think part of it is the social part of it, right? It's
Yeah.
like all my friends and family are a part of this, so where else
Yeah.
am I gonna go, right?
Yeah,
So,
yeah. And maybe it's because I didn't know that many people outside of either comedy or church. So like the two types of people you hang out with are those two types of people. But yeah, and then I was no longer religious by the age of like maybe 26 or 27. And then I just kept doing stand up. So
yeah, and that's
yeah.
cool, and very cool that you do that, but also that you do have your podcast, Growing Up
Yeah.
Fundie, which
Mhm.
you interview people who grow up fundamentalists. So, what was the genesis of that? Was that just like, oh, well, everybody's doing a podcast these days, and I got to pick a shtick, or like, what was
No,
the?
I had actually tried 2 or 3 types of podcasts and they never worked, so I never thought of myself as a podcaster, but one day
Mm.
I was telling somebody a funny story about a time that I had the same piano recital as the 2 oldest Duggars, and they were like, have you told anybody about your background? Like the more I filled in the details and like told them about my background, I said no. And they said, well, you should. And so then I decided I wanted to tell as many people as possible. And I felt like podcast is the best way to do that.
Podcast is a great
But
way to do that.
that's when I learned though how many people have very similar backgrounds to that.
Mm.
They grew up, even if they didn't grow up like fundamentalist, just Baptist or Presbyterian or any type of strict religion, because we don't just talk to Christians. I talk to people from any strictly religious background. Some of them are still religious. Some of them have gone completely to the other side and are atheists now. But yeah, and so I just realized after I posted my first couple of episodes, people I'd known my whole life that I had no idea came from a similar background, because I'd known them through comedy or they were friends of my brother, theater people. They were like, "Oh yeah, yeah, me too. I did that too." And it's
Mm.
just wild how many people that nowadays are completely mainstream but grew up even wilder, because I was just like mainstream Baptist kid, but some of my friends who are involved in comedy legitimately grew up in cults, and I
Yeah.
didn't realize how prevalent that still was.
Isn't that interesting? Now, we, of course, you and I'd say, let our freak flags fly in that respect, because we talk about this stuff a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like it's just a thing. But like, why do you think that is? Like, you find out, oh, like this random celebrity actually came from this like random cult, and you just like never hear about that, and that's like not necessarily something reflected in who they are. Do you think it's just like a distancing thing, or I mean, you've known a lot of people who are from those kind of backgrounds.
I think it's one of two things. Some people don't realize it's weird until way later in life. Like some people, that's how they grew up and they're just like, yeah, that was my childhood. And they don't realize until somebody points it out to them that it was a very bizarre childhood. And
Mm.
then other people, I think they spent so much time kind of pent up that once they get that freedom, they just like a coil, they just kind of
Yeah,
spring as far and as fast as they can.
that makes sense, because I do wonder, like Will Smith's kids. First of all, growing up as Will Smith's kids is a whole thing, but also like, do they talk about like Scientology at their home? Like
I don't know.
what's
Right.
going
You're
on
like,
there,
is that
right?
allowed? Or like, is that rule number one of Scientology is that you're not allowed to talk about
Yeah.
Scientology? Or
Because like I imagine most I mean there's some Republican maybe celebrities, but like probably not a lot of fundamentalist Christian big name celebrities these days. You know what I mean? Like
I don't imagine. I
yeah.
don't imagine.
Yeah.
Maybe
No,
some politicians, but
yeah.
I feel like Dave Ramsey's probably the only like evangelical celebrity that exists, I think.
But he's like D-list, maybe C-list celebrity though. You know what I
That's
mean?
true.
I'm talking about like big movie
Yeah.
stars. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
Oh, Chris
Like
Pratt. Chris Pratt is
that's true.
evangelical.
But Chris Pratt, did you see he kind of like walked his way back a little bit from that? I also recently, have you seen, and this is for the folks at home, by the way, we still have some open lines right now, so we'd love to talk to you guys. This is a call-in show. So come talk to us, ask us your questions, or if you have something that you want to share with us and you think is real and you want to see if we believe it, that's totally fine too. But anyway, I've been watching the Hulu series on Hillsong. Have you seen the Hillsong thing?
I
Okay.
haven't seen it yet, but I need
Okay.
to.
So here's the thing. Here's what I'm realizing. Okay, so I don't know if there's just a bunch of people who are going to be making more Christian like documentary stuff.
I hope they do, because it's really good for my podcast when they do that. I hope they do. Make them all. Expose everybody. Here's
what I figured out is that because I watched both of these in a very close time period. I'm not finished with the Hillsong one. I got one more episode left. It's a 4-episode thing. But with Hillsong and with the Duggar one, the Duggar one starts off talking about the Duggars, and then it talks about IBLP, which is like it does a bait and switch where it's like, oh, actually, this documentary is about IBLP, which is this Christian homeschooling.
And I love that they did that. I love that they did that.
They do the same thing with Hillsong, where they talk about the sexy pastor guy, and then they go into the actual founder of Hillsong, like in Australia and stuff.
Yes,
and talk about more of that. So,
do you remember when Scream came out and they made it look like it was going to be a Drew Barrymore movie? And then spoiler alert, I'm so sorry, they killed Drew Barrymore in like the first 5 minutes.
I can't believe you just gave we're gonna have to censor that, crew. We're gonna have to censor that in the
I know it's been less than 30 years. I'm sorry, but
that's really bad. But no, I actually haven't seen it. So now you actually spoiled that for me.
I'm sorry.
But no, I'm wondering like if there's gonna be a bigger trend of more of that kind of coverage, because like I just feel like, not that the Duggars don't have like watchers, okay, but like, you know, critical watchers in the mainstream capacity like that, I feel like it's still very, I mean, there's like movies like Jesus Camp, I guess, but like Jesus Camp came out in like what, 2007, right? It's been very few and far in between. And now I don't know, maybe it's just anecdotal, but maybe there's more of that kind of stuff coming out.
So I think what's happening is our generation is coming of age where we can like make movies and make documentaries, and we're getting revenge. Like we were raised that way, and now we're at an age where we have TikTok, we have the internet, we have people telling us like that was weird, that was not usual, that's a kind of a crazy story, and we're going, oh, you're right, I am traumatized, I'm gonna make a documentary about this. And then we are, and we're like telling everyone about it, and then all the other people our age who were raised that way are like, oh snap, like I didn't realize so many of us were out here.
Yeah, and they do. I think both of those documentaries, I think, do a good job of interviewing victims of it in particular, because, you know, it's very easy to just be like, oh, Josh Duggar was a monster, and be like, okay, yeah, sure, whatever. But then it's like, oh, here's the people that he affected. It's not just like this abstract, some of which being his own family, which, you know, is a whole thing there. But like, I appreciate that part of it. With the Hillsong one, it almost makes me feel sympathetic for the pastor guy for just a second, but then he's also like kind of weirdly narcissist. I don't know. It's very interesting. I won't spoil everything in those, but there's like this up and coming, I don't know, movement there with stuff.
And I do want to specify the interactions that I did have with the Duggar children. They were always very nice. I always make sure that I tell people that they were so nice. Like they were such nice girls. No tea there. I think their parents need to go to prison for life, but I think they were victims in this whole thing, and they've always been kind.
Don't ask Sydney about the tea with the Duggars, because she'll tell you, and one, hopefully she'll tell me, but also like you know, you were a kid, so it was like you probably didn't have.
I was like 11.
You were like best friends with them, but they were in your community, they were in your church and stuff,
and like everybody knew who they were, but there's no way they would ever. They don't know who I am or anything like that. Even before they had a show, everybody knew who they were.
I imagine they were kind of the local celebrities.
Definitely. Absolutely.
Yeah, I have a similar experience because I lived in Waco, Texas, and I feel like I talk about this all the time, but like Chip and Joanne kind of became a thing in Waco, which I'd rather be known as the Chip and Joanne town than
Speaking of cults,
yeah, than the other thing. But yeah, no, that's a whole other can of worms. And I went to Chip and Joanne's church actually. So there we have something coming. But I for a short while. It was, and they got their own issues in the church.
Give us all the tea. Tell us.
You can find news articles that go into more about it than I would be interested in telling here. Yeah, I'll have to tell the Fundie snark. Let's talk about that real quick, actually. So, like for people who don't know, because like I've never talked about it on here, but I think Fundie snark is an interesting thing, and we had this conversation. First of all, actually, Sydney and I got to hang out in real life a few weeks ago. We both went to the Secular Student Alliance conference in Missouri, which was really, really cool.
That was cool.
Shout outs to anybody who is now watching me here from that conference. It was a great time. We talked about podcasting and got to encourage students to do their own stuff. So really, really cool. But while we were hanging out, we talked about this thing, which was the Fundie snark subreddit. Because I think there's this like phenomenon.
It's a whole world. It's not just on Reddit. It's like a whole thing.
You're right. And like, so like I've considered myself, okay, I'm in like this kind of skeptic space a little bit, skeptic adjacent space. But then there's like other people who also talk critically about Christianity that have like nothing to do with any of the content creators that I associate with. It's like its own separate ecosystem. And it's this Fundie snark world where they just talk about fundamentalist Christians primarily.
Fundamentalist Christian influencers primarily, which it turns out is a thing that a lot of people don't know.
Yeah. And so like, and they talk about it a little bit in that Josh Duggar documentary, but it's like, I think that's so interesting because, I mean, one, it goes to show you don't have to necessarily be like an atheist or anything to see, oh, the shit that they're doing is wrong. But also like the focus is on these sort of celebrity figures in a way. I think like it is more of a focus on people's public presence more than anything else. Oh, you got the bird. We got audio listeners. We got birds on screen. Bird
turquoise
alert.
Green cheek conure alert.
Look at that. It matches your shirt too. That's great. Yes, full cam on those birds. How many birds you have, Cindy? You have like 9, right?
Yeah, I have total 9, but I have 4 in here with me.
Yeah, that's a lot of birds.
That's a lot.
Thank you for bringing the birds on stream. Much appreciated. But okay, what was I saying? Anyway, it's weird that there's a difference there, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's this. So Fundie snark is. It's like any scene, it's borderline toxic. Like there are some people that do good things with it, and there are some people that just shit on people with it. Oh, can I say shit online?
Yeah, you absolutely can.
Okay.
You absolutely can.
So that's one reason why like I lurk a lot, and that's where I get a lot of my guests for my podcast, but I don't necessarily engage much unless I feel like it's relevant somehow. Because I never want to like online bully people. And if you're not careful, those snark pages can very much devolve into online bullying. A lot of times, like the Fundie Snark Uncensored has a lot of interesting stuff where they'll post like videos and clips, or they'll post like something somebody said versus a clip of them saying a completely different opinion a couple years ago. So there is some accountability going on there. But for the most part, if you're not careful, it can very much devolve into just online bullying. So that's just something to keep in mind if you decide to get into those scenes, is that it may be more fun to lurk than to actually participate.
I'd like to think that the difference of here, by the way, any community I've been a part of also has had its toxic elements, right? I mean, like that's kind of everywhere. I don't know a community that doesn't. Maybe the Mr. Rogers community. Like,
I don't know. I could just see somebody out there being like, "No, fuck you."
You think
Mr. Rogers was
on the Mr. Rogers fan page? You think there's people that are like talking shit? That'd be awesome. Actually,
they're like, "You're not going to be my neighbor." So
oh man, I was coughing right there, and I should have muted, but that made me laugh. Yeah, that's really not great. But the internet's a terrible place, and so there's terrible people everywhere. But like, there's also like modes of generation by which you can get terrible people, right? So if you're like on a 4chan thread that like, is a Nazi recruitment forum, like, yeah, you're going to get probably worse people on average than I would say the Mr. Rogers community.
Well, not only that, but when you think of Reddit and it's completely anonymous, if you want it to be, it's easy to say, oh, this girl looks terrible in this awful dress. Cause like Fundie Fashion is another one that I follow.
They
Yeah.
do talk about people's looks on there, which does make
Yeah.
me uncomfortable.
Supposedly it's against the rules, and people do get banned for just saying, like, you're not allowed to just be like, this person's ugly.
Yeah.
But I just feel like that's a ruse. I kind of sometimes feel like that's just, they just put that in the rules so they can say that they don't support that kind of stuff. But
Right. As a person who puts their face out there, I just feel like that's kind of cross. I would not, if I'm going to criticize other people's videos and do a response, I would not
right,
talk about the way they look. I feel like
right,
that's just kind of a low blow. Also, with
right,
this show, at least people can call in and they can be completely anonymous. I don't have to know unless you willingly identify yourself. And sometimes, yeah, it gets heated, but I don't know. I try to be nice. I mean,
yeah,
we all have our moments of being really mean, but I do feel like the difference in tone is just like there's something about loving to hate watch that
right,
can be really toxic, and I think I see it
right.
on there. Now, I'm not saying that,
Yes.
again, as you point out, I don't think everything is completely invaluable. And I'm not going to say that I don't enjoy a little bit of that myself. Okay.
I enjoy a good lurk every now and then.
Yeah, but I'm not like, I don't know, I'm not like following someone's Instagram and like a screenshot of it and then posting it to the subreddit and being like,
Look at
oh,
this
like,
dumb bitch. Yeah.
yeah, that's like, I don't know. I feel like I don't know.
Well, and there's also something also to consider is there's a unique pain that comes
Mm,
with being a former like fundie or people. So a lot of the members of those groups were raised that way or were married into that sort of lifestyle and then they deconstructed or whatever. So it's like it's weird if you get on like a Taylor Swift page and are like, ah, fuck, blah 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 blah, because you're like, who hurt you? But in the fundie world, you know exactly who hurt you. You know exactly who it is.
yeah.
And so it's like I give them a slight amount of grace in terms of just like hating on everything, because when that is somebody who caused you that much pain, or when that's like an organization or whatever that caused you that much pain, I can see why you would want to be kind of vitriolic about it. But if the church you went to and the religion you were a part of caused you pain, that doesn't mean you have to like get on there and call a fundamentalist family's kids ugly. Like,
Yeah, and that's when I think that hits the nail on the head for what my criticism of it would be. Because again, like, I'm not going to stand here and be a hypocrite and just say, oh yeah, this whole thing's okay. I
right.
talk shit. Okay, I do. But I always, at least in principle, try to have it be about ideas first before
Right.
people.
Right.
And I feel like communities like that cross that boundary where it's like, oh, there's the people portion
Right.
of it
Right.
more so than the ideas.
Like, I would never call Tommy Lahren ugly because she's not. She's beautiful. But
Sure.
your
Yeah.
personality can be hideous.
Yes. It's about your soul,
Right.
whether or not that's beautiful or not. Hey, we got a super chat here. And by the way, folks, we do have super chats. So if you want to send them our way, we can definitely read them. And thank you to the Atheist Christian who donated $10 and said, many people that go to church are there to look good in the community, many of whom are abusers and unethical in their real life. 47 years off and on, attending numerous denominations in the South. And that's very true. I think like it does, like that's the biggest harm that churches do. I'm not going to say the biggest. One of the biggest harms is if you have good standing in that community, your abuse gets covered up 100%. Like your awful behavior gets covered up. That's just true so many times over. I don't know how many examples you want to bring in, but there's a million examptions you could bring of that. Absolutely.
100%.
And I will say this, the atheist community, obviously I don't know, it's like herding cats. Can't always get people to agree, but they call people out. You can't say that they don't call people out.
Yeah, sometimes. Accountability, man. Accountability.
That's a thing that happens, for better or worse. It happens, right? So it's like, yeah, that's sometimes people do shitty stuff, but yeah, I don't know. There's a lot to be said about that.
And it's just like everybody's gonna be that way, but you don't have to participate or contribute if you
yes. Yeah, and that's I wonder too if maybe people who go to Fundie Snark, and I don't want to paint a broad brush or armchair psychologize, but I'm wondering if like that's maybe they find these communities first, and that's how they feel like they are positively impacting the world. Like they're trying to give back. They're trying to like take power that was taken away from them. Because I totally agree. You're probably interested in like these communities first and foremost because you were a part of it. I think that's like a lot of it, and you were hurt by it. Like I think and that makes sense. So I think maybe that's how people think, oh, I see somebody talking about this stuff on YouTube. I think that means I can talk about it, and I can talk about it the way that they talk about it, which sometimes goes again into that, like, oh, I think their kids are ugly, and also, oh, her hair is so, it's kind of a Mean Girls vibe sometimes. It's like, oh, her hair is so ugly in this video or whatever. I literally seen comments like that. I don't know.
Yeah. Or like there's a particular influencer where everybody calls her husband Shrek. And I'm just like,
oh, I haven't seen that.
Like, so there, and here's the thing.
Okay.
The man looks like Shrek. He does. He does. Like, it's not, he literally, like, you know, those like TikTok filters where it like shows you who you look like. He legitimately resembles the character. However,
wait, like Shrek the man or Shrek the ogre?
Like the ogre version, like that. You're right. And so, like, come on, guys. Like, why do you got to make me mad and laugh at the same time? Like, why do you got to do that? It's hard to stand for anything.
That's the other thing too, because you do see, I don't know, observations are made. It's like, okay, yeah, it's kind of true, but it's like, look, I don't post about it online. That's right. You keep that in your head. I don't know. Maybe that makes me a hypocrite. Maybe we're all just hypocrites. Maybe.
Oh, I'm 100% a hypocrite. I'm trying every day not to be. Like, anybody who may get on here and be like, that she just called him Shrek when I'm a hypocrite. We're all hypocrites. That's the thing. I'm working every day to not be, and trying to do my best to clean up my internet presence. But I
don't know. At least you can be honest with yourself, right?
Sometimes you got to call somebody Shrek when they look like Shrek, I guess. I don't know. I've never done it.
Well, listen, now I'm gonna get comments saying I look like Shrek or something. So that's
the man or the
I hope the man.
I was gonna say the man's not. He doesn't. I don't remember what he looks like much. I just remember he had a very, very like jawline. He had a
the jawline thing. I could pull it off.
Like handsome Squidward. That's not an insult.
Like handsome Squidward.
Yeah. Like if somebody told me I looked like handsome Squidward, I'd be like, oh, that's a lot nicer than what I used to get on my stand-up stuff. So.
Yeah, I imagine. I know from other content creators who are women on the internet, they do not get the best comments. I imagine stand-up is just as bad, if not worse.
So this one time, I actually found a literal subreddit dedicated to just shitting all over me.
Not really?
Like, and not like in the way that you're like, not like in the kink way, like in the insult way. Yeah, like all the posts were like, I made a joke about pizza and somebody found it and they were like, she should focus less on pizza and more on salads and just stuff like that. And then when I came in and I commented, they shut it down immediately. I was like, guys, stand for what you believe in.
Oh yeah. You know what? Hey, listen, if you're gonna talk the talk, you gotta walk the walk. No, I support that.
If I can't see it, then you guys are a bunch of cowards. If I'm not allowed to read it,
say it with your chest.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. No, actually, I support that. That's a good policy to have. But look, we do have some calls now, so I think we should talk to some people who want to talk to us, because this is a call-in show. But before we do that, Sydney, we have to thank the patron of the week. Every single week, we always give a shout out to at least one person from Patreon. Of course, I want to thank everybody that donates to the Patreon, but we're going to give a shout out to one person this week, and this week's patron of the week is Mark McGee. Thank you so much, Mark McGee, and thank you, of course, to everybody that donates on the Patreon. You guys rock. And with that out of the way, let's talk to our first call, shall we? All right, let's do it. We got Gerardo coming in from California. Gerardo, you are live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, brothers. I love you guys. God loves you. I'm surprised I got an answer. But I was listening, and you're saying you're atheist? You don't believe that God exists?
Yeah, I prefer the term agnostic, but that's neither here nor there. Agnostic, atheist, or igtheist, also works. Yeah.
Have you ever stubbed your toe?
Yes.
And you get some pain?
Yes.
That something tells you, ouch, that hurts.
Yes.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And you look at it and you say, well, where did that pain come from?
It comes from my nervous system.
Yeah, I know where it comes from.
Yeah, it comes from your nervous system. Exactly. But where did that nervous system come from?
My body.
It was from, exactly. It was from a creation.
Oh, I didn't say creation. I said my body.
Yeah.
Well, no, I'm saying creation.
Right. Oh, okay. But I'm saying my body. And my body came from my parents, and their bodies came from their parents.
No. Your body came from the creation.
No, I think
you can keep going. You can keep going. You can keep going back to my parents, my grandpa, my great grandpa, my great 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 grandpa, my great great great. It started somewhere.
Yeah.
Somewhere there was a start.
Mm-hmm.
Somewhere there was a big bang.
Yes.
There was a big bang, and creation started.
Yeah, there was a big bang.
There was.
We agree with you there.
It was huge. Yeah, it was a huge big bang. How could you? I mean, something very simple. How come we're still in this universe, circling the moon, the stars, and we're not getting sucked up in this black hole and gravity? We're still here.
Yeah,
there's
gravity
that's holding us together.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, there's something that's holding us together.
Gravity.
Gravitational pull is holding us together, and the absence of gravity is why we're floating in space.
Yeah.
Yeah, and who created that gravity?
Oh, who created it? Who created it, Gerardo?
The moon, the fish.
Why does it have to be created?
Yeah, it formed over time, over millions of years.
Something has to be created.
Why?
Nothing can be created without creation.
Why?
Sir, I'm thinking that you're a very intelligent young man.
Okay.
And this young woman over there is also very intelligent.
Okay.
But just look at your arms.
Okay.
Peel back the hairs on your arm and look at it and say,
let's talk about this.
Yeah.
So I understand the origin of life, right? There's a lot of stuff we don't know about the origin of life. We have a lot of guesses.
So you understand that?
Well, I kind of want to take the conversation in a different direction, if you don't mind, right? Mm-hmm. So, like, just so we're on the same page, right? Origin of life, there's a lot of mysteries there, but that's also not the same thing as the origin of the universe. Mm-hmm. So I think we should either talk about like one or the other. I think the question of like, why is there gravity? That's an interesting one. I don't know the answer to that. I don't know if there could be an answer to that. I do know that gravity's there. And I do know that it is one of the fundamental forces of the universe, according to mainstream science. So I do trust that the scientific model of the universe, our current understanding, says that the universe is over 13 billion years old, and we are the result, therefore, of forces, like literal cosmic forces, but nowhere in that description like is a God actually mentioned. So like putting God into that equation is something that I don't have, in my worldview, in my model, because I don't need it. There's nothing that says there has to be a God for any of that to happen.
Okay. And when did vocabulary, language come into view where people could understand language? When did that come?
I guess
so. Humans actually haven't.
Time when people started writing stuff, they knew there's a God. If you go to,
people haven't been able to write since the beginning of time. Language, both written and spoken, is rather new in the human timeline. It was only until we developed the brain processes that we needed in order to create language and to speak and then to write and to tell stories and things like that. After we evolved over time and our brains got a little bit more complex, that we were able to read and write. So in the beginning of time, there weren't actually any people, and there definitely weren't people who knew that there was a God or anything like that.
Yeah.
No, always knew. If you see the history of the world, somebody was always sacrificing something to a god. They built pyramids. They built in England. They built the big heads. Somebody always knew there was a god, something bigger than them.
Why does that mean that God is real? I mean, do you agree though, Gerardo, that people can believe in things that aren't true?
Of course.
Okay.
Like you.
So how do we know that? Well, I'll ignore that comment for now. But how do we know that people who have believed in God are actually mistaken? Like, how would we confirm or deny that they were right or wrong?
I will tell you right now.
Okay.
We had 12 apostles. 12 apostles in the beginning when Jesus Christ came to this earth, and he died on the cross.
Yeah.
And he died on the cross. But before he died on the cross, he took all these people, and he was the healer. He healed thousands.
I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you. I don't think you're answering my question. So my question is, people believe in wrong things. how do we know when people believe in things that aren't true? What are some just general ways we can know?
Was our president. Everything he said came out of his mouth was not true. People have to have knowledge and wisdom and know that somebody's telling a lie. I mean, that's just something that you know that somebody's lying to you.
Okay, well,
I mean, I have my kids.
I don't think.
To me.
Well, hold on, Gerardo. I don't think, and I'm sorry, Sid, because Cindy wants to talk about this too. But like, I don't think when people say they believe in God, they're necessarily lying.
No,
if they
I don't
say
think so
God
either.
is real. Yeah, I think you can have a genuine belief in God, but you can still be wrong. I think that people who have genuine beliefs in like Bigfoot, for example, I still think they're wrong. I don't think they're lying.
Ghosts. I think people genuinely believe in ghosts.
I agree with that.
Okay. So back to my question then. So we have a bunch of people from history who, by the way, believe in various spiritual entities, not just Yahweh. Yahweh is one particular conception, but various particular.
Yahweh is God.
Yahweh is God according to the Hebrew people, right? But the Hebrew people aren't the only people group that have existed in history, right? In fact, they're not even the first people group. Right. So we have a bunch of people from history who believe a bunch of different ideas, a lot of which aren't, like, some of them are mutually exclusive, right? Like I we can't have Yahweh and also the Egyptian gods, not according to Christians, right? So like, I want to know, we have these different belief systems. How do we know that a belief in Yahweh is true?
Right.
Yahweh is the one that made the miracles that took the Israelites out of Egypt.
How do we know that?
The Red Sea and brought them into. History tells you that. Come on, man.
I think the Bible tells you that.
Yeah, history doesn't tell you that. History actually tells you the opposite.
Yeah, it's true.
That certain migrations of people that are listed in the Bible didn't actually happen in real life.
Mm-hmm.
And they fled, and all the people died from the 7 plagues.
Can I ask you a question, Gerardo?
Please do.
Okay. So am I correct when I say that you don't believe in Zeus or Herod or any of the ancient Greek gods, Hercules? You know that they're not real, right?
No. Of course not. Of course not.
Okay.
That's mythology.
No, my question for you is, how do you know that? What is it that makes you say you are 100% certain that those gods are not real and they never existed?
Oh, Greek mythology? Why does it exist?
No. How do you know? How do you feel comfortable knowing that Zeus was not real, Hercules was not real, and you're comfortable not believing in them?
Because there's never been one prophecy. I don't even believe in Muhammad. I don't believe in Mormonism. I don't believe in.
Did you know Joseph Smith was a real man?
All those people, John Smith from Mormonism.
He was real. Did you know that? He's like a real man who lived, and history can show us that too.
Listen, there was nothing in their prophecy that ever came true.
What prophecy?
So
when Christ's prophecy was prophesied 5,000 years ago before he was born.
Wait, are you talking about the book of Daniel? The book of Daniel was not 5,000 years before the birth of Jesus.
Isaiah,
and Daniel are not 5,000 years before Jesus.
5,000 years before.
That's not true.
That's
what source?
Okay, I'm maybe short of years.
No, you're short thousands of years. Like, the book of Isaiah is maybe like 1,000, but Daniel is like within a few hundred years. Like, I mean, and Isaiah, that would be a very conservative estimate.
You remember the book of David, the Daniel, the 12 tribes of Israel.
Yes.
The Levites, the Benjamites, the Edomites, and I don't know, everything is all Edomites.
Yeah.
You know, that's why you go. That's why you go to Palestine. They're still fighting over there because everything was separated, and they were fighting against each other.
Okay, I want to bring this conversation in a little different direction, Gerardo, because I want to talk about your epistemology. In other words, I want to talk about your knowledge base, right? How you know the things that you know. But it sounds like what convinces you of the truth of Yahweh and the truth of Christianity is prophecy. Sounds like prophecy is very convincing to you, right?
Books. So I read it and my heart tells me it is. I've seen it. I've seen miracles in my life.
Okay.
I'm a 62-year-old guy. I've seen prayer, and
I want to make sure, because there is a little bit of a delay, Gerardo, but if we're talking, I just want to make sure that you are listening to us. So just try to be mindful of that. But I want to know, like, prophecy is obviously a big deal for you. You just mentioned miracles as well. Like, what out of everything that you believe, what is the most convincing evidence, or the most convincing point, even just the most convincing thing for you for Christianity being true?
the most is the resurrection of Jesus Christ and a new life, that we die and we go to a resurrection and our body go to a different place.
So in other words, is it the resurrection narrative that tells you that Christianity is true?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So that's so the resurrection account is the most convincing thing to you that makes you believe that more than anything else that Christianity is true. Why is that the case?
Mm-hmm.
With the beginning, the birth of Christ, which is Christmas, the resurrection, that's all I live for.
So actually, the beginning, in the Bible, the beginning is listed as when the heavens and the earth were created.
Yeah.
It was before Jesus.
Yeah, that's true. But
that's Genesis 1, chapter 1.
That's fine. You say that, but you remember Cain and Abel, the two brothers that one killed the other brother. So that's not the beginning. That's not the beginning of our resurrection, our life. I mean, we're sinners and we sin, but Christ came to our earth to give us the peace in our heart.
I'm not really
our sin, and then believe in Him. He just said, "Hey, just believe in me, and believe in what I did for you."
So I don't.
Never committed.
I'm going to take a different track with this conversation, Gerardo. Sorry, I'm going to interrupt you, but because I'm not sure if I'm getting completely the answers that I'm not the answers that I'm looking for, because that would be very malicious. I'm more like I'm not sure if I'm getting
my answers. I understand that.
I'm not sure I'm getting the answers that I think would make most sense for my question. So I'm not sure if you're listening to that, but maybe I'll try a different tact here. Okay, I don't believe that Jesus Christ rose from the dead. And I don't believe he performed any miracles, and I don't believe there's a Holy Spirit. So do you think my fate is to just burn in hell for all eternity? What do you think that are the consequences of that?
Well, you know what? This is something that God gives you. He gives you time during your death. Why does everybody come in a car crash or something, they're like, oh my God? Why do they say that? Because they know there is a God. And at the end, they know that there is one. I mean, it's only a part of our human humanity, our soul, our spirit.
Okay, so you're saying I actually secretly do believe in a God.
Sir, if you're going to ask me that at the end of your lifetime, if somebody has a pistol to your head, and they say, do you believe in Christ or not? And you say no, you choose that. You choose no.
Yes.
God gives you the freedom. Christ gives you the freedom to say yes or no.
But don't you think God would want me to be honest?
He doesn't. He does not bury you with his cross. It's a reverse. He bears your cross.
Okay.
So would it have been God who put the man with the gun to my head there to teach me a lesson? Or what do you think God's thoughts are on that?
Just some idiot out there. I mean, everybody has free will. You got to watch out when you walk out. I mean, every morning I walk out of my house and I get into my car. I wake up at 2:30 in the morning and I look around my car and I know God loves me and He's going to take care of me. But you know what? I got to make sure there's nobody around my house to rob me or something. It's
you should just get a Ring camera, Gerardo. I don't think you need to be walking around at 2:30. I don't know where you're at in California.
I have a Ring camera. No,
that's good. Okay. Look, we got to wrap this up because I'm not sure if we're going too much in with this. But Gerardo, let me think. I want you to think about this with me, okay? If I say no, right? Let's say that I really do have a choice, and if somebody put a gun to my head, right, and they asked me if I believe in God, and I said no, don't you think it would be if I lied and said yes, I actually do believe in a God, is that better?
Oh, so okay, so you may be talking about like the Jews that are going to Nazism.
No, I'm not talking about that at all. I'm talking about the
no.
scenario that you just gave me, which is at the end of my life, somebody.
Do you believe in God or not? If you don't believe in God, then you can go over here and work in the fields. But if you believe in God, you're going to the concentration camps. Is that what you're asking me?
No. Look,
No.
I'm just talking about the scenario you gave, which was somebody has a gun to my head and they ask me, do I believe in God? Yes or no? And I'm asking, is it right for me to say yes, even if I don't actually believe?
Yeah, because you know what? Nobody can kill your spirit. The guy can shoot you in the head.
Right. But in this scenario, Gerardo, I don't actually believe in God, right? I'm still me. I don't believe in God, but I'm saying, yes, I do believe in God. And they still kill me. Do you think that's right for me to say yes?
No, because you're lying.
Okay. I agree with you.
You're a liar.
I agree with you. I agree with you, Gerardo. And I think Gerardo, God would appreciate the fact that I'm being honest when I say I don't believe in him. Right? Don't you think but Gerardo, listen to me, please. Do you think it's better for me to live the life that I'm living now or go to church and pretend like I believe and pretend to live a Christian life and pretend that I believe in God, or be honest with myself and say, no, I actually don't believe in this and I'm not convinced of this? I mean, which is more honest?
You are going to be dishonest in both ways.
How's that?
If you go to church, you ever heard the saying, if you go to a barber shop and hang out there, you're going to get a haircut. If you hang out there, you're going to get a haircut. So go to church. Go to church, you're going to receive.
Get a haircut?
Yeah, no, maybe not a haircut. I've been to church, Gerardo. I've been to church a lot of times.
Tons of times. Yep.
I've received a lot of things. I don't think I've received the Holy Spirit, though.
Right.
So the young lady didn't understand what I was saying. If you hang out in a barbershop, you keep hanging out there.
I literally go to a barber to get my hair cut.
Yeah,
I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
I don't know what about my face says.
Oh, look, hey, listen, if Paul of Tarsus was literally, going to be around when Christians were getting murdered, and he's not going to church, and he had an experience. But listen, he had an experience and he found God, so maybe that could happen to me, right? Why do I have to go to church?
Christ. He found Christ.
Yeah, he found Christ. So can I not find Christ?
Christ found him.
Sure.
He finded him.
Okay.
In the desert.
Sure. Right.
He didn't find Christ. Christ founded him.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know if you're fully listening to what I'm saying here. So I think I'm just going to wrap up this conversation. I do appreciate you calling in and having that with us, but it is a little frustrating if it's just kind of going one way.
Yeah, a little bit.
Sydney, what'd you think of that?
I thought that was very interesting.
Yeah.
I thought that was an interesting exchange. And I understood everything he said. I know he doesn't think I am capable of understanding, but I understood it all.
Yeah.
Would have liked an answer to questions, but
would have liked an answer to questions as well.
Can't always get what you want, which is fine.
You can't always get what you want.
Yeah.
But you can try sometimes.
You can try.
Sometimes you get what you need.
Right.
Yeah. Right. Anyway, that's a song. I don't know if you knew that, but anyway. So yeah, no, that was Gerardo. If you want to call back, or advice to anybody, please listen before you speak. God gave you 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? That means you should listen more than you speak. That's something I was always told anyway. But look, before we move on to some other callers, again, just so you're aware, we do have super chats. So if assuming they're YouTube appropriate, we'd love to read them. But also, if you want to support the show, there's a couple different ways you can do that besides super chats. I already mentioned, of course, the Patreon. And by the way, Kelly, folks at home know Kelly. Kelly is going to be working on some content for our Patreon. Okay, I'm hyping it up because we've been talking about wanting to put more content on the Patreon for patrons, like exclusive, for a long time. And longtime viewers know we've tried a couple ideas. So I'm excited to see where Kelly takes it with that. So shout outs to Kelly for working on that. So yeah, Patreon is the way to go if you want to support us and get that shout out. And you can also support the show by becoming a member. If you do, you get emojis in the chat, and your name gets highlighted. And also, you're going to be immune to the slow mode in chat, all for as little as 99 cents per month. So if you're watching on YouTube, that is a great way to support the show as well. And you can say, shit, it was 99 cents. That's another song that I'm quoting here. Macklemore. What's Macklemore up to these days?
I was just thinking about him the other day.
Really?
I was literally just thinking about him the other day, like one day ago.
Let's get Macklemore on the pod.
We should.
I bet he'd do it.
I bet he would do it.
He probably wouldn't do it. But that's okay. One more thing. I'm going to go ahead and get this out of the way since we're getting to the tail end of the show. And actually, maybe another announcement right afterwards. But we do have merchandise that you should check out. So I really love this month's shirt. It says, "Feeling cute today might destroy the universe, might adopt a cat," IDK, with Cthulhu on there. If you don't like that orange color, we do have it in all kinds of other colors. And of course, we have the regular Truth Wanted merch as well. Phone cases, hats, tank tops, whatever you like. So that's another great way to support the show and check it out. And hey, get ready this year for the Bat Cruise that is happening in Austin, Texas. Those of you who don't know, every year except for like the pandemic years, I guess maybe some people would say we're still in a pandemic year, but regardless, there's a Bat Cruise that's happening in Austin, Texas, and it's happening in August 26th to be specific. I believe there's still tickets available. Forrest Valkai is going to be there. J Mike is going to be there, and a bunch of other hosts. Sadly, I am not going to be able to make it this year, which I'm very bummed out about. But you should definitely go and hang out with all the other hosts and all the other crew that helped make the show happen behind the scenes as well. So tickets to that are going to be online. Basically, Bat Cruise is in Austin. We have Congress Bridge, where bats actually come out on the South Congress Bridge, and it's really cool. So we get to be on a boat and watch that happen on the river there. So check it out. And Kelly is going to be there too. Kelly just messaged me and said he wants everybody to know Kelly's going to be there. So go meet Kelly. That's a cool thing. And one more announcement before we keep going on. If you want to hear our content in audio only form, you can go to tiny.cc/AEN podcasts for all of the latest ACA shows, including this one. So check that out if you're like me and you like to listen to your shows rather than watch because you're too busy doing other stuff. That's a great way to do it. And I think that's all the announcements I got right now. Whew, that is a lot.
That was good. That was a marathon.
Thank you. We had some other folks calling in, but now our lines are open again. So you know what it's time for, Sydney?
What's it time for?
It's time for a truth bomb, baby. We're getting to the truth bomb. I've been saying we need to make this a regular thing. And you know what? I haven't followed up on that. I'm sorry. Okay. We get good calls and I get good guests and I get caught up in the conversation, lost for time. But I'm thinking, folks at home, around the hour mark into the show, we'll try to make the truth bomb thing consistent, at least while I'm hosting. So it's happening today. Again, I also said it's going to be shorter this time around because I went for a long time. Past couple times, and we're gonna make them a bit shorter. And also, I got the drummer for the Grateful Dead wrong, and oh my gosh, so many people pointed that out in the comments. So I'll try to be as factually accurate as possible, okay? Because being wrong on the internet is a terrible thing. And Kelly is clapping his hands at me because he knows, because he's one of the, apparently everybody who watches this show is also a Grateful Dead fan, and so also called me out for that. So that's
before we get started, can I just address something I see popping up in the chat like insane?
Oh yes.
Everybody wants to know what I do when my birds poop in the house.
Oh yeah, what do you do? That's a good question.
So we keep that like plastic that you put under your computer chair so it can roll around. I got big old ones of those.
Oh,
and then you mop on a regular basis.
So it's just kind of everywhere all the time.
It's not because I clean every day, but if I didn't clean every day, it would take like a whole day probably to clean it.
That's good. If you think about it,
you just wipe it with a Clorox wipe and you're good.
If you think about it, if you're cleaning your floors every day, that probably means your floors statistically are cleaner on average more than most people's floors.
I can probably eat off my floor safer than I can eat off like a plate.
I probably wouldn't do it though.
I wouldn't. I'm like, I bought a table for a reason, but
our visual stimulus is useful to prevent us from doing stuff like that. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like we know that's not good for our bodies, even if like there's no germs there. There's something about it.
I also keep black pillowcases on my chair so that I can just change the pillowcase if they're sitting right there when they do it.
That's really smart. Smart.
I've seen like 5 or 6 comments about it, so I just thought I would address it with the truth. They want the truth, Dan.
They want the truth. And now it's time for me to give you the truth, City. It's time for a truth bomb. Okay, today's topic. I was going to talk about the IBLP with you, Sydney, because they talk about that a lot in the
love
shiny
to talk
happy
about
people
it.
thing. But I felt like, that's low hanging fruit because
easy.
there's a big documentary talking about it right now. If you want to go learn about the IBLP, you definitely should go watch it. Instead, I'm going to talk about something a little bit more obscure because that's more my style. Sydney, have you ever heard of the Aggressive Christianity Missionary Training Corps?
Did they call themselves aggressive, or do we call them aggressive?
It is literally called, and I quote, the Aggressive Christianity Missionary Training Corps. That is their
It's like
name.
Awanas, but the A stands for aggressive.
It's like Awanas, but the A stands for aggressive. Yes, it's
Buy
exactly
my cookies.
that is the best part. Is that, first of all, it's a terrible name. Okay, just objectively speaking, that's just not a good name.
Just objective.
Don't.
I won't do it. I almost did it, but I didn't finish it.
I knew it. I said.
I didn't finish it.
I can't say that word on this show anymore because it just happens. But anyway, terrible name. Because why would you want to join that?
Now, here's the thing, though. Here's the thing. I feel like we've all at this point probably had Mormons come knocking on our door, right? Not very effective, most likely.
Okay.
Imagine if they just kicked down your door. You'd probably have a minute to hear about Jesus. You probably would. You'd find a minute somewhere.
I don't think I'd find a minute. Oh, shout outs to the birds. I don't think I'd find a minute, Sydney. I think I'd find a minute to call the police. I don't think I'd find a minute to talk to them about our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ.
If that's all they wanted, I might give it to them. If that's all they wanted. If I'm like, will you leave? And they're like, yeah, I might do it.
You are a more giving person than I, because I would not give that to them. But this is the aggressive.
I'm just a smaller person. I'm just a shorter person.
That's also true. I feel like you would be more scared in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. You're like a full foot taller than me.
Yeah, I am a very gigantic person. So that's a fun fact. But Aggressive Christianity Missions Training Corps, again, it's a terrible name. Also known as the ACMTC, also known as the Holy Tribal Nation. The Free Love Ministries, or the Life Force Team, is a militant Christian fundamentalist new religious movement.
None of those names I feel like go together. None of those mean the same thing.
I will go back to this because they did some rebranding over the years, and they definitely rebranded to the wrong name. It is kind of wacky how that happened. But basically there were these people named James and Deborah Green, who are also sometimes called the Generals. So if you
general, like that insurance guy.
Yeah, like that, but also just like generals in the military. That is their deal. So this organization, the ministry, was founded in 1981 by James and Deborah Green. But when it was there, it wasn't called that. It still had this military structure, and it's actually based on the Salvation Army, funnily enough.
Interesting.
But they did originally start with a different name. They started with the Free Love Ministries, and also known as
something way different to me than Christianity.
Right, so
to be honest,
they go from Free Love Ministries to the Aggressive Missionary Corps. So what? I don't know what in your mission statement changes that Can
I make a guess?
Yeah.
I guess they were probably standing outside being like, would you like some free love? And people were like, no, oh my God, no. And they got rejected so many times, they just became the aggressive ministry. They're like, if you don't, it does incels is what they're incels, I think.
Yeah, probably. They basically, incel missionary corps would actually be kind of funny.
That would be the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, it would be scary, but it would be funny if they were incels out in collective groups, like Mormons or Jehovah's Witnesses, saying, "Can I tell you about inceldom?"
They're like, "Can I tell you about Jesus Christ?" And you're like, "No," and they're like, "Well, you were a dumb whore anyway, dumb whore, you fat bitch." I didn't like you to begin with. You can burn. That's fine.
Not an effective recruiting strategy, I would imagine. But I don't speak for them. Anyway, so they do have a list of their primary beliefs here. Okay, so according to their responsibilities of command officers manual, again, yes, this is a thing that they try to make, is they say, we believe in the divine inspiration of the Bible, that in one God there are three persons, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Ghost, that Jesus Christ is the Lord God Almighty, creator of all things, in the virgin birth, and that Jesus Christ died for our sins, in the baptism of the Holy Ghost with evidence of speaking in tongues, all the supernatural gifts, and practicing them. And they mention healing, miracles, deliverance, tongues, and the whole thing. And they also say, his grace is demonstrated that we might be free from captivity, but this freedom is to be used for and unto his ultimate intention. God always asks that which is impossible to be made natural in man, that his people will be dependent upon divine spiritual resources. God designs all things to function properly under his control. He is not content to merely set us free, but longs to, quote, turn our capacity. That is, he longs to bring us back into his captivity. He must either submit to God's purpose or become captive to some other law. God's plan will not allow us to live long in liberty apart from law. God's pattern is not spurts of consecration and dedication, but a consistent walk leading into a continuous unfolding revelation, plan, and purpose. In other words, the idea is it's a ministry that's kind of organized around a military structure. That's kind of what this is. It's like, look, we have God's law, and we got to follow this to a T. Otherwise, we don't get salvation, right? I mean,
and they also have to make their bunk beds every morning and be up by 7. They did.
Yeah. So this is obviously a very small group of people, and this is colloquially what you would call a cult.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
Right? Yeah.
For sure.
So that's what's going on with this group. There's a lot of people who have come out since this group has been around because of some of the stuff that's happened. And mainly, I'm sorry to say, a trigger warning for folks that are listening here, but SA is a part of that, and a lot of it, actually. Several $1 million worth, actually. Yeah. So a couple of different lawsuits happened again in 1988. Maura Schmeier and several others filed a lawsuit against the Free Love Ministries for abusive treatment, asking for $20 million in damages. And the Greens lost the case by not appearing in court and went on to run from the law. So the court ordered the ACMTC to pay Schmeier $1.62 million. And after losing the lawsuit, all buildings they owned were seized by the court. And the ministry destroyed the buildings and left Sacramento and settled in Klamath Falls, Oregon, and added another ministry name, Death Force Team, which is like not a ministry name.
That's like right? that's like scrolling up like kind of name, like a space name, like a So they go from free love to the aggressive incel missionary master program to the Space Force.
No, they were still free. They were still free love ministries at this point, which again, a little not great love that's happening there. Yeah. It may be free, but it's not good love.
As long as they focus on tongues, like they've been talking about.
Well, so fine. They do the whole tongues thing. They are into that
free
stuff
love
as
needs
well.
More tongue, for
but,
sure.
But like this is a group again that is rife with abuse, including sexual abuse, and eventually that's also wild. Involves stuff with children as well. But they're already off to a bad start, right? So they basically said, fuck you to you guys. We are out. We're just gone. And you just go to Oregon and they just like, don't have to show up to court, which is like really wild. So
were they sovereign citizens?
So, there is
they don't have to show up to court.
There is a little bit in that, I think, from what I've been able to find. There isn't a whole lot of information that I've been able to find that's been super satisfactory about it. Mostly just media articles and pieces. I wasn't able to find any books about it. And usually I like to kind of at least peruse some books. So mostly what people have been able to. It's
called the Bible, Dan. That's the only book you need.
You're right. Now, the National Geographic Channel actually did feature some of the accounts of people who were part of the group. And so there's most of like what we know about the group is from people who were actually like, within the insides. Yeah. Right. But to wrap this up, because again, I said I wanted to get this kind of shorter. It gets really, really bad. So basically they run away from the law, and then eventually they run away to a new place again. And they actually occupy an old school building. Now I don't know if they actually like paid for this school building. I guess they did, but I haven't actually been able to confirm.
I was going to say, I'm pretty sure they owe somebody a lot of money. How are they buying schoolhouses?
Yeah, they made this other camp in Gallup, New Mexico. So they're just going from like place to place, like doing this ministry, getting people to like join as part of their ministry, and just kind of telling them and saying, okay, we're like the generals, and like, you're part of this army, and you need to be able to do this stuff with us, right?
I've always wondered what kind of person says, yeah, that sounds good. Yeah, I'm into that.
I imagine it's people who are like in a really, really tough situation in their
That's true.
lives
Yeah.
who
They
maybe
don't
are
really have
looking.
any other option.
If they say, hey, we got a place to live here at this school where you can be with us and you have to work for your living here, but this is a way to do it. Like, I imagine that's got to be convincing, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, that's true. I mean, if you're the type of person who doesn't have any other options, then any option is probably a decent option in your mind.
yeah. So at this point, the lawsuit thing becomes a big deal, right? And so like, they get more of this kind of attention, and different attention is thrown to them at different places over the years, right? But I don't know how they could just like leave court like that and not suffer these consequences. That's what's kind of weird about the story, is that I'm not able to figure out like, okay, so like people know where they're at, but they don't have to like do anything about it. I don't know how that works, but the Southern Poverty Law Center did eventually call this group a hate group at one point, which is, if you're on the Southern Poverty Law Center's list, you're probably fucked up at some point.
Well, and
right?
also it's confusing because they claim they're generals and they run everything like the military, right?
Right.
But abandoning the military is a federal offense. Like just not showing
Yeah.
up anymore. Is it like you think they of all people would find value in
that's
showing
the court.
up?
That's the court of man. Sydney.
Oh, right. That I
They're
forgot.
accountable
you're
to
right.
the court of God.
You're right. Nope, you're
So
right.
there's
I should have known better.
Anyway, again, to wrap this up, it only gets worse with some of these charges. In August of 2017, Deborah Green and her son-in-law, Peter Green, were arrested, and they were on charges of abuse of children, unfortunately. Peter Green, who was a manager at the ministry's Fence Lake location, had been charged with 100 counts of criminal sexual stuff to a child.
Wow.
I'm not going to say exactly. Yeah. While Deborah Green also faced charges of child abuse, negligent abuse, and criminal other stuff. Deborah Green's son, Joshua Green, was also arrested and charged with a failure to register the birth of his son. Because they did have, I mean, I should have alluded to this earlier, but they did kind of have a sovereign citizen thing going on. Like a lot of these
sounded like they would.
So there's a lot of militia groups out there, and Christian militia groups that also have like these intersections with like white supremacist beliefs, but also like anti-government beliefs, right? Like if you're in a militia, you actually, which is funny because the militia is supposed to like protect the people of the state, right? And like they don't really like the government most of the time. And so like there's some influence coming in there with these groups. They organize and like are friends with a lot of these other groups, and so that's how they get some of these resources and some of these people who are kind of into this stuff, right? So a lot of people arrested for a lot of different things that happened. Now, one of the crazier things though is that later on in September of 2018, Deborah Green was sentenced to 72 years in prison after being convicted of child stuff and kidnapping also, and more stuff happening to kids there. So we have this situation where basically there's people who are they're kind of taking in younger kids into these groups, and they're not giving them back to the parents. The parents like they need to come home, and they are like no. So it's not really great. And there's like some other stuff here as well, but like 72 years is a long sentence here.
That is a long, but not when you have either your next life stretching out in front of you after this life.
That's true. But they also other people who've been involved had like weapons charges and stuff like but like again, they're functioning like almost like this militia, almost this military paramilitary Christian group, but also they want to like be in Christ, I guess, and so like that's the whole thing. So very, very weird and strange organization that I couldn't find, usually for these sources, I find a whole bunch of stuff on them. This one was harder to track stuff down on because they're not like a huge giant group. Now, interestingly, you can go to their website, and you should, because it is really interesting. It does have that stuff I read about their beliefs. That's all on there.
It's like still active. They didn't have to take it down.
Still there. And it's like, it looks like it was made in 1995 and hasn't changed. So it's one of those like HTML text websites you should definitely look at if you want. I mean, that's what this group is in a nutshell. It's a military, pseudo-military, weird evangelical organization with a just terrible name. Also like Death Force. I mean, like that's Like, that's a metal band. That's not a Christian ministry. What the?
I really feel like they just had a team of like 15-year-old gamers come up with their names.
Yeah.
They're like, let me ask my son what he thinks. I don't know, Death Force. What do you think?
Yeah. They started in the 80s too. So it's like, it's not even, it's before like a lot of edgy sort of gamer stuff even is in there. They were just hardcore. I don't know.
That's wild.
Yeah. Very weird. So there you go. The Christian, I can't, oh God, I always can't saying the name. The Aggressive Christianity Missionary Training Corps. Okay.
Jeez.
And that's Corps spelled CORPS. So maybe it's cores. No, it's core. What am I saying? It's core. Anyway, yeah, that's it. That's my truth bomb for today. So I think I made it in 15 minutes or so. So that's better. One try doing like 10. So and I feel like I could have said more about this group, but honestly, there's videos from the survivors of these groups that talk about more about like some of the details.
That's wild.
I don't feel comfortable talking about here. So yeah, very, very
that's
bad.
for the after show. That's what that's for.
Yeah. Well, speaking of that, we are going to be doing a Discord after show, which you should definitely come and check out. Link to that is going to be in the description and also in the chat if you're watching. But Sydney and I are going to be in the after show. It's on the fan run Discord server run by fans for fans of this show and others. It's at tiny.cc/ACD Discord. So look at that. And I'll do another quick announcement as well. If you happen to be in the Austin area, July 30th, 2023, we will be broadcasting live in the Free Thought Library. So in that studio, by the way, guys, the building is looking kind of crazy right now. We got like some TVs, or no, they're like screens that are like on the windows now that have clips of the show playing like onto the streets. Like, it's kind of cool. Like, I'm in some of those clips and a bunch of the other hosts, and they're just like outwardly playing to the road that's right next to the Free Thought Library there. So that's really interesting. Yeah, definitely check it out. We got Talk Heathen and Atheist Experience going on during the day. And who's going to be hosting? We got, Jamie the Blind Limey and Jamie Boone is going to be hosting for Talk Heathen. The two Jamies. The old Jamie and the new Jamie, solid Jamie and liquid Jamie. So we'll see what happens with that. And then also for Atheist Experience, it's going to be Christy Powell and your boy. So come join us in Austin live at the library if you want to see that.
Gas Jamie will not be there, unfortunately.
Not Gas Jamie. No,
yeah.
No. That's a Metal Gear thing. The solid Jamie and liquid Jamie. So I feel like I've been making a lot of references to you tonight, Sydney, that just go over your head. And that's fine because you're really short.
I'm really short. I was going to say everything goes over my head.
Yeah, that makes sense. I'm a little disappointed tonight, guys. We've been very light in terms of calls, and we have an empty queue right now. So unless somebody's going to call in at like the very last minute, we might just wrap things up a little bit early here. Yeah, I do see. Oh, we do have one actually here we can take. Let's go ahead and take this one. We got Kaitlyn Beyond, who is calling in and wants to talk to us. Kaitlyn, you're live on Truth Wanted. What's up?
Hey, I just wanted to call and talk about a situation that's going on in my local atheist organization. I do a lot of volunteer work. So one of the things that I've kind of been doing is it started as just like a socializing thing, but also leaning towards activism as kind of the mission of the group. We're trying to revamp, and it's like the longest standing organization in the Metroplex, so like that I'm in. So
nice.
That's cool.
Long story short, I guess, so I don't like talk forever and you guys just sit there listening. We do an event every year. It's been a little different the past few with COVID, but we're putting it back on for a banner campaign where we post large banners on an overpass, I believe. The last time it said like "In No God We Trust." There was a whole event thing with it's an educational seminar is how we label it. But this year, the city has decided that we're not allowed to post a banner that says "Keep God out of our public schools."
The city has ruled that
it's against
you can't post it. Like there was a city
Yeah.
declaration, like they actually told you directly.
they've told our organization directly, not me, one of the other board members, but they've told us that we're not allowed to, we haven't gotten the approval to post them. We appealed their decision because it's not against policy. We attached their policy.
Yeah.
And they denied our appeal. So we have sought help of American Atheists and things like that. And I mean, obviously we're not stopping. We're still going to have our educational seminar. Whether or not we're allowed to post the banners and things like that and what takes place, I don't know, but it's crazy to me. I mean, I'm in Texas, so you, Dan, at least, it's going to be interesting fighting that battle.
Yeah,
It
that
sounds like
sucks.
somebody needs to call Americans United.
Yeah.
Andrews. On the phone.
Get some Andrew Seidel to help out with that. But yeah, I mean, I know they're dealing with a million cases every day. But like, yeah, look, if it's like, there's obviously like, I know for like college campuses and stuff, for example, you have to go like get approval from an organization, right? But like, usually it's because like, there's like certain commercial interests they won't support or something like that. But if it's just like religious reasons, I feel like that's like a First Amendment violation.
Yeah,
I don't know, especially if we're like, Texas is already going to be like, yeah, we want to post God lives in this school, whatever the fuck they want to post.
Right. That was my next question. Yeah. Do they have that stuff?
Yeah. I mean, that's what, so Texas is kind of, I don't know what maybe Kaitlyn, maybe you remember what the decision is saying, but like it has been going on in state Congress that they literally do want to pass a rule that says you can put up a sign in every public school that says, God, what's the phrase? It's like God lives here or something. eat, pray, love or something. I don't know. It's fucking like some bullshit phrase. Some like that says like, this is a one nation under God or something like that. And obviously it's a violation, right, to post stuff like that in a public school, but it's Texas. Nobody gives a shit. And that's what sucks about living here. But yeah, Kaitlyn, that sounds like it really sucks.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean,
it sounds like it breaks a lot of laws.
We've been able to get like the help of like Muslim organizations and things like that with this campaign. So it wasn't even just atheists that we're trying. There's Christians involved with this that are very progressive. So it's frustrating that it's not just atheist even. And that wasn't what they cited for reasoning. Obviously, they're not going to, but it's just frustrating. So
that is frustrating. I had to double check myself. I'm going to correct myself because the law it actually did pass. And this was a little while back too. We talked about this on the show. I don't know why I forgot, but yeah, it's Texas law that requires that donated "In God We Trust" posters must be displayed. Yeah, which is yes, that is the rule of law.
They just didn't like it when it was in Arabic, right?
Yes, they didn't like it if it was in Arabic. If it's in Arabic, there's some loophole that says they don't have to put it up. But because that was like kind of an idea people had, they were like, "What if we just put it in Arabic and freak people out?"
What if we just do what they did with "If I Did It," O.J. Simpson's book, and just make the word God like this big, just like microscopic, and then just make the secular parts giant letters and just make God like just
that'd be Kaitlyn, you could do that. You could in your new design put the God part real small
real really small. And like even make it like you can even put it in Braille if you want, that way you can feel it too. It's there.
That's good.
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't know. I'm obviously not helping you right now, Kaitlyn, and I'm sorry about that. It's just like that's one of those things where I can just say
upsetting.
I fucking hope that gets overruled because that's bullshit and that sucks. And like, that is discrimination. Like
it literally just sounds like it breaks innumerate laws. That's what I'm curious is how they get away with that, with the exception of the fact that they're in Texas and everybody else in Texas agrees with it too.
Yeah. I think that's what it is, right?
Yeah, I don't feel like that would fly anywhere else.
Go ahead, Kaitlyn.
Like I said, we're not going to stop. We're going to keep fighting. So
yeah, that's good. I appreciate you telling me about it because maybe maybe some other people can. I don't know. I hope it becomes a news story. Maybe that's the next thing you do, Kaitlyn. Maybe you do take it to the local news, see if they're interested.
Hell, take it to TikTok. That, right? Everything makes the news when you put it on TikTok.
Take it to TikTok.
Seriously, I'm like, that's for real.
Okay. We are making some positive contributions to this conversation. Yeah.
Yeah, we had a piece of the parade in our town too, for 4th of July, and one of our members, who is very loud and vocal about things like this and not afraid to be seen on TV, the news happened to come by, and he's like, "Hey, let me pick your brain for a second." And so he went on a full rant. I don't think it actually made the news, but I would like to get that clip and share it. So
yeah, for real. Like anytime a social issue winds up on TikTok, it always makes the mainstream news, I feel like, and it goes viral really fast. So even if there's maybe like people outside of Texas can't do much about it, they can be aware of it and they can make it like a public thing that's outside of Texas that people know is going on.
Yeah,
That's something.
Yeah.
Well, Kaitlyn, I think that's all the time we got for this call, but thank you for calling in and telling us about it, because now I'm fired up for you.
Same.
And I want what's best for you. Like that sounds shitty. We don't talk about it all the time because I don't know. There's way bigger, in my opinion, issues of discrimination that happens, but atheists do get discriminated. Okay. It does happen. It's little things. And I'm not talking about just like social conversations. Like we all have that. We literally happened today on this show, but also like that's an institutional thing. And while I don't feel like it's talked about as often, like it is important. It's one of the reasons why shows like this exist, so that we can talk about how fucked up it is. Right. So more power to you, Kaitlyn, and what you're doing. So Sydney, before we wrap up today's show, I do have one other quick thing I should plug, which is if you want to email the show, if you like what you see and you want to tell me what you like or what you don't like, you can do that. The email for the show is truth@atheist-community.org. You can also reach out to the ACA at tv@atheist-community.org. And of course, see our website at, you guessed it, atheist-community.org. And there is a Facebook group. You should look at the Truth Wanted fan group. It is by fans, for fans. If you want to continue the conversation, go to tiny.cc/FBTWG to interact with other fans. Lastly, have you ever said to yourself, I really like the content the ACA makes. In fact, I like it so much, I want it in my brain as I sleep all the time, 24/7. Well, you're weird if you think that, but we do have something for you, which is the AXP TV and the AEN TV, Atheist Experience Network TV. So we got two different streams going on. It's at tiny.cc, AXP TV, and AEN TV for the other one. They are 24/7 live streams. So they have clips of old episodes of shows, new episodes of shows, and there's pretty much always people on the stream. So if you just like want to hang out and talk to some folks, like there's a good chance you can just chat with other folks who also like the shows that we watch. And of course, I need to thank the wonderful guest we had today, Sydney Davis Jr., for being on. Thanks so much, Sydney, for popping by.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
If people want to find more of your stuff, where should they go?
Yeah, I've got a YouTube channel, Sydney Davis Jr., where you can find the playlist of every episode of Growing Up Fundie. If you like the visual version, if you like the audio version, we're on Spotify, Apple, Amazon. We're supposed to be on Google. Some people find us, some people don't, on Google Podcasts. Yeah, you can check out my YouTube. I've got a website, growingupfundiepodcast.com. There's also sydneydavisjr.com. Or if you live in Nashville, you can just see me around. Because I'm probably the only like 5-foot redhead around here with fake eyebrows. I'm guessing.
Nashville?
With fake eyebrows, specifically with fake eyebrows. There's probably a real eyebrowed redhead around here.
I don't know the stats on that.
I don't know. I need to look him up. Secular Rarity. He's in the comments. He lives near. Hey, do you know any other redheads with fake eyebrows that are 5 feet tall? Yeah,
of course. Hey, Secular Rarity. Do you know the entire population of Nashville?
I bet he does, though. Dude's everywhere.
Secular Rarity is everywhere. Shout out to Secular Rarity. Yeah. He's everywhere. He's like the Holy Spirit. He's within all of us, and we love him for that. So shout out to him. So stick around again. We're going to be in the Discord after show, so go check that out. Link's going to be in the description. Hey, we have to thank the wonderful, awesome, amazing, stupendous crew that helped make this show happen every single week. Look, we got one person on the crew cam. There's other people too. Just one on the crew cam right now. So the crew, like gremlins, sometimes they have a couple rules. One of them being they can't be exposed to sunlight. So I think they're hiding right now from the sunlight and probably avoiding water. I think that's the other gremlin rule. So yeah, there's a couple rules you have to adopt when you become crew, and that's just a couple of sacrifices they have to make. So thank you, crew, for your sacrifices.
Thank you, crew.
Yeah, really appreciate it. Folks, the prompt this week is, what is something that sounds true but isn't? So comment below and we will read the top 3 comments for next week. And yeah, that's going to be it for tonight. I am Objectively Dan. Remember to keep always wanting the truth. And I'll see you next time.
Out.
Watch The Non-Prophets and join the hosts in the live chat, Sundays at 3 p.m. Central, between The Atheist Experience and Talk Hidden. Visit tiny.cc/YTNP.